Welcome into Bucco-booth, everybody. My name is Benson Fector, and I'll be the host of your show today. A brand new week of baseball and a brand new episode right here, Saturday afternoons. I appreciate you tuning in live, archived, no matter what platform or however you're doing it. I certainly do appreciate it, and we have a lot to dive into in this brand new week of baseball. Yesterday, the Pirates team had their first inter-squad game. They were supposed to have their first one the night prior, but it was rained out. Black and gold game yesterday with the black team prevailing. Trevor Williams pitched well for the black team. Luke Maile hit a home run off of Michael Feliz. And it was a fun afternoon overall and a nice get back to baseball moment. And it looks like the Pirates are going to be playing the Cleveland Indians in a exhibition series July 18th, 20th, and 22nd, with the 18th and 22nd games being at PNC Park. So we are 1 week from our first exhibition game since March the 12th. The Pittsburgh Pirates got some really productive seasons from many batters in 2013, but Gaby Sanchez was one of the overlooked performers of that year. The 2010 decade saw the Pittsburgh Pirates have essentially a merry-go-round of first basemen. By the start of 2013, the Pirates had already seen about 5 different players take over at first base, with varying levels of success, but none establishing themselves as long-term pieces. In 2013, the Pirates opted for a platoon at the position. Garrett Jones was the left-handed end of the platoon, and Gaby Sanchez was the right-handed bat of the platoon. When you look back at it, Sanchez quietly had a pretty decent 2013. Now, to start with, Sanchez was nothing worth writing home about defensively, but he got the job done. He had a -5 DRS, but just -0.8 UZR and -1.6 range runs above average. He got the job done, but I want to focus on his bat here. In 320 plate appearances, Sanchez batted for a solid .251 average, .361 on base, .402 slugging. Not necessarily fantastic, but it still resulted in a 117 OPS plus, 118 WRC plus, and 113 deserved runs created plus. Pretty solid numbers for 2013. He also hit 18 doubles. Sanchez also made hard contact quite often with a 35.5% hard hit rate. He was third on the team in hard hit percentage, only falling behind Pedro Alvarez, 41.2%, and Andrew McCutchen, 39.9%, and that was with a minimum of 300 plate appearances. He also only had a 15% soft contact rate, or 1% better than the league average. What really made Sanchez notable in 2013 was how good of a platoon guy he was and how frequently he got on base. Sanchez walked at an outstanding rate of 13.8%. That actually was the highest rate in the Pirates lineup, even surpassing the MVP, Andrew McCutchen, who was second at 11.6%. Sanchez's platooning abilities were outstanding as well. In the 126 plate appearances he faced lefty pitchers in, Sanchez put up a .333 average, .348 on base, and a .539 slugging, with 4 home runs and 9 doubles. In 500 plate appearances, that comes out to about 12 long balls and 36 doubles. Overall, that comes out to a 181 WRC plus and 428 WOBA. Sanchez's 181 WRC plus that year versus left-handed pitchers was the 14th highest in baseball, even outdoing rookie sensation Yasiel Puig with 180, who should have been the American League MVP, Mike Trout, 172, and National League MVP runner-up Paul Goldschmidt, 163. Sanchez was also outstanding for the Pittsburgh Pirates after the All-Star break. His first 84 appearances after the break saw him hit for a .314 average, a .393 on base, and a .414 slugging. Though he didn't hit a home run, Sanchez walked 11 more times than he struck out, with 10. The other end of the platoon, Jones, only hit for a .251 average, a .295 on base, and a .435 slugging versus right-handed pitching, with a 104 WRC+. not completely awful production, but there was much better out there. So to replace Jones, they decided to go and trade for former MVP Justin Morneau. Now, Morneau is better versus right-handed pitchers than Jones was, having a .280 average, .352 on base, .467 slugging, and .125 WRC plus in 2013. But Morneau started to struggle down the stretch versus righties. His final 75 plate appearances versus right-handed pitchers saw him still have a .279 batting average and an outstanding .400 on base percentage, but Morneau's power completely disappeared as his slugging percentage went from .488 before the trade to .344 post-trade. While that would have been really good if you were batting leadoff with McCutchen, Alvarez, Starling Marte, Marlon Byrd, Neil Walker, and Jordy Mercer batting behind him, most of Morneau's plate appearances came from the cleanup spot. It was understandable why the Pittsburgh Pirates were batting Sanchez in the cleanup spot when he was in the lineup. He had a .333 average, .421 on base, and a .552 slugging, and .174 WRC plus coming from the spot. But not so much with Morneau. They instead kept Morneau in a spot where he was supposed to be a run producer and much less of a get-on-base guy, and set up a run-scoring situation for bigger bats. Regardless, Sanchez's 2013 season was one of the more under-the-radar performances that year. Many look him over because McCutchen had an MVP season. Marte established himself as a top-tier defender with a plus bat. Alvarez led the league in home runs, and deadline addition Marlon Byrd all left bigger imprints on the 2013 team. But Sanchez was fantastic at getting on base and hitting left-handed pitching. And when you think about the 2013 team, you can think about McCutchen. You can think about Marte. You can think about Alvarez. You can think about Byrd. But do not forget about Gaby Sanchez. And when I look back on the 2013 season, and really on the playoff run, what I like to do is look at what-if situations. My biggest what-if from the 2013 season was what if they didn't trade for Justin Morneau. Now, at the time of the Morneau trade, about 7 years ago now, it was seen obviously as a great trade, a slugging first baseman who was coming in to fill in for Garrett Jones, who was not providing what the Pirates needed in the platoon situation between Sanchez and the right-handed counterpart. Now, the question that I always wonder is, should Gaby Sanchez in 2013, should he have just been the full-time first baseman? And if so, or if they didn't trade for Morneau and kept a bigger power threat such as Jones in the lineup over Morneau, would the Pirates have had a better chance of winning the division in 2013? Now, either way, it probably wouldn't have mattered because they were going to be in the NLDS after winning the 2013 wildcard game. So if we look at the 2013 MLB standings from 7 years ago, and we take a look at the NL Central just to see how far back the Pirates actually did finish, it paints an interesting picture of what could have happened. We see that the Cardinals won the division going 97-65, but the Pirates were right there, 94-68, only 3 games back. Now, if the Pirates would have won the division in 2013, which theoretically in the scenario, Gaby Sanchez might have given them 3 wins or Garrett Jones over having Morneau, they would have had home field advantage in the NLDS. And as we know, the Pirates had a 2-1 lead in that series and lost the final 2 games in the 5th and final one in St. Louis. If you had Gaby Sanchez as the first baseman, does that push him over the top and give them that home field advantage that might have been enough to make it to the NLCS, and you never know what happens from there. And I know I'm taking one small thing, such as taking a look at Gaby Sanchez's 2013, and taking that to the furthest degree that we can go. But so with some of these what-ifs lining up, does that make a 3-game difference? Does that make a difference in the NLDS, and what happens after that? It's an interesting question and one to ponder, and without actual baseball games, I thought I would take a segment to begin the episode today to just dive into some flashback Pirates stuff from earlier last decade. The Pittsburgh Pirates are currently in the midst of Spring Training 2.0, or as what others are calling it, summer camp. Apparently one of their top prospects has not participated yet. A few weeks ago, the Pittsburgh Pirates, along with the other 29 teams around baseball, released their expanded rosters for the upcoming 60-game season. The Bucs had a lot of intriguing names on their active roster and taxi squad. Of all the players, Ke'Bryan Hayes, the team's top hitting prospect, was one of the names that jumped off the list. Back in March, the expectation was that Hayes would be held down in AAA, and if he was performing well, he could get the call post-Super 2. Instead, with a shortened season, there was hope that he would get a chance to take the starting third base job. Since the restart, manager Derek Shelton has mentioned everyone but Hayes as potential depth at third base. At first, it was a bit surprising that he was throwing names out like Phillip Evans, a utility-type player, over Hayes. However, it looks like there might be more to this than we originally thought. Jason Mackey of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette tweeted the infield groups from practice. Pirates doing infield drills. Do not see Ke'Bryan Hayes. Breakdown: third base, Moran and Evans. Shortstop, Newman and Tucker. Second base, Frazier. Shortstop and second base on a rotation were Riddle and Gonzalez. First base, Bell and Ozuna. And catcher, Stallings, Maley, and Murphy. Yesterday brought multiple reports that Ke'Bryan Hayes has not been in attendance at PNC Park. Shelton released this information during his press conference. He handled it very similarly to how he handled the update on Keone Kela, who is also missing from camp. This could be for many reasons, of course. Players have the right to keep their COVID testing private, but there are also other reasons he could be held up. Quote, Ke'Bryan Hayes has not yet been on the field, Derek Shelton says, no explanation, which was sort of expected. That was from Jason Mackey of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Hopefully, Ke'Bryan and his family are okay, and there is nothing too serious going on. Hayes is a big part of this team's future, but is also one of the most likable players in the minor league system. He has always worked hard, interacted with fans, and plays the game the right way. Not to mention, he has steadily improved as a player on both sides of the ball. Let's hope he is okay and can get to camp soon. So, when it comes to the two situations that we have going on at Pirates camp right now that come as a bit of a concern, those two are the Keone Kela situation and the Ke'Bryan Hayes situation. Now, honestly, and I know I led this segment off discussing Ke'Bryan Hayes and the merits that he brings to the baseball field, and the fact that Phillip Evans is slated to be the backup third baseman right now and not Ke'Bryan Hayes. And it's because he has not shown up to camp along with Keone Kela. And it could mean two potential things. Number one, he, just like both of them, Keone Kela and Ke'Bryan Hayes, could have tested positive for the coronavirus. Now, MLB has no rights in accordance with HIPAA law, which allows patients to not publicly disclose and not doesn't allow doctors publicly disclose diagnosis. Now, we saw with Blake Cederlin and Socrates Brito that both of them did test positive, and they felt comfortable enough to come out and say that. And in the initial MLB testing results, we saw 58 players tested positive. Now, I do apologize in my research. I did not tabulate how many came out and said they have it versus the unknown players, but there were 58 players, 66 total, 8 of them being staff members. But the question now is, are Ke'Bryan Hayes and Keone Kela a member of those 58 that tested positive and are just exercising their right to keep that private? The other question is, are they going to join the Hector Noesi camp? Hector Noesi, minor league pitcher, opted out. Are they going to opt out? And what would the effects of an opt-out for both Ke'Bryan Hayes and Keone Kela look like? And what would coronavirus positives look like as well? I'm going to start off with Ke'Bryan Hayes because it's an intriguing situation. When it comes to Ke'Bryan Hayes, it is clear that he is the future at third base. Colin Moran last year was not good. He was not good. The numbers were